The late morning sun cast long shadows across the polished pews of St. Andrew's Episcopal Church as William Hayes stood at the pulpit, his knuckles white against the dark wood. 3 weeks had passed since the boating accident on Lake Travis, and still, he struggled to accept that Rebecca was gone. The search teams had combed the waters for days before the sheriff finally pulled him aside with that look, the one that said hope had run its course. "I never believed in soulmates until I met Rebecca," William said, his voice steady despite the hollowness in his chest. The church was filled to capacity. Faces he recognized from tech conferences and charity galas, neighbors from their Westlake Hills community, Rebecca's art students. 15 years ago, she walked into that coffee shop in downtown Austin, spilled her latte on my laptop, and changed my life forever. A few gentle laughs rippled through the crowd. William's gaze drifted to the large portrait of Rebecca displayed beside the empty casket. Her amber eyes seemed to follow him, that slight quirk in her smile suggesting she knew something he didn't. The portrait had been painted by one of her students. Rebecca had always preferred being behind the canvas rather than on it. "She was the heart to my logic," William continued. "While I built firewalls and security systems, she taught me to see beyond codes and algorithms. Rebecca showed me the beauty in imperfection." In the third row, Marcus Chen, William's business partner and closest friend, nodded encouragingly. They'd built Hayes security systems from nothing, turning William's breakthrough privacy software into a tech empire worth millions. Yet none of that mattered now. What good was success when he had no one to share it with? Rebecca always said that life... William's voice finally cracked, but he forced himself to continue. "Life is the art of beginnings, that each day offers a blank canvas." He took a deep breath. "I don't know how to begin again without her, but I know she would want me to try." As William stepped down from the pulpit, the church organist began a soft rendition of Amazing Grace, Rebecca's favorite hymn. He moved toward his seat, legs numb, mind drifting. The lake water had been so cold that day. Why had he answered that business call instead of joining her on the boat? Why hadn't he noticed the storm clouds gathering? A commotion from the back of the church jerked William from his thoughts. Heads turned as a small figure darted down the center aisle, sneakers squeaking against the marble floor. "Uncle! Uncle William!" The child's voice rang out, cutting through the organ music. "Your wife is alive? I saw her yesterday." The music stopped abruptly. A stunned silence fell over the church as a girl, no more than 8 or 9 years old, rushed toward William. Her brown hair was pulled back in an uneven ponytail, and her simple blue dress looked worn and a size too large. William stared at the child, uncomprehending. He had no nieces or nephews, no siblings on either side to produce them. "Young lady," Pastor Mitchell said, approaching with a concerned frown. "This is a very solemn—" "But I did see her." The girl stopped in front of William, her eyes wide and earnest. "Aunt Rebecca told me if anything bad happened, I should find you." Marcus rose from his seat, signaling to the security guard standing by the door. But William held up his hand, stopping them. Something about the girl's desperate expression held him in place. "I'm Emma," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper as if sharing a secret. "Aunt Rebecca's niece." William knelt down, bringing himself to the child's eye level. Rebecca had never mentioned having a niece. In fact, she'd told him she was an only child. The logical part of his brain, the part that had built his company on analyzing patterns and detecting anomalies, registered the inconsistency immediately. "Emma," he said gently, "I think you might be confused. Rebecca didn't have any brothers or sisters." The girl's expression hardened with surprising determination. "She did. My mom was her sister. And Aunt Rebecca is not dead. I saw her at the big house with the blue door yesterday." Murmurs rippled through the congregation. William felt Marcus's hand on his shoulder, steadying him. "Will," Marcus whispered, "let me handle this. The poor kid is obviously confused." But William couldn't look away from Emma's face. from the stubborn set of her jaw that reminded him eerily of Rebecca when she was convinced of something. "Where is this house with the blue door?" William asked. Emma opened her mouth to answer, but was interrupted by a woman hurrying down the aisle. "Emma Harris, you cannot run off like that." The woman, middle-aged with a weary face, reached for the girl's hand. "I am so sorry," she said to William. "Emma is in foster care with me. She's been through a lot, and sometimes she gets confused." "I'm not confused." Emma pulled away from her foster mother. "I know what I saw. She was painting, just like always." A chill ran through William's body. Rebecca's last project, the one still on her easel in her studio, had been a small blue door surrounded by wisteria. She'd laughed when he'd asked what it was supposed to be, saying some paintings didn't need to be anything but themselves. "Sandra, I promise I'm not making it up," Emma insisted, turning back to her foster mother. The woman named Sandra gave William an apologetic look. "Emma lost her mother last year. She sometimes creates connections that aren't there. The social worker warned me about this." William nodded mechanically, but his mind was racing. If Rebecca had a sister who had died, why had she never told him? And who was this child who seemed so certain she'd seen a woman 3 weeks dead? "It's all right," William said finally. "Emma, would it be okay if we talk more about this later? This is a very hard day for me, and for everyone who loved Rebecca." Emma studied him with a surprisingly adult intensity before nodding. "You believe me though, right?" Before William could answer, Pastor Mitchell cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should continue with the service," he suggested gently. Sandra led Emma toward the back of the church, the girl looking over her shoulder at William until they disappeared through the heavy wooden doors. The remainder of the funeral passed in a blur. William nodded at condolences, shook hands, and accepted embraces without fully registering who was offering them. His mind kept returning to Emma's words and the painting of the blue door. Later, at the reception in his sprawling Westlake Hills home, William found himself standing alone in Rebecca's art studio. The evening light filtered through the large windows, illuminating dust particles dancing in the air. Rebecca's presence lingered here more strongly than anywhere else. In the half-cleaned brushes, the splashes of color on her smock hanging from a hook, the faint scent of linseed oil and turpentine. The painting of the blue door stood on her easel, unfinished. William approached it slowly, studying the details he'd overlooked before. The door was set in a weathered stone wall, with no indication of what lay beyond. The wisteria climbing beside it was rendered in delicate strokes of purple and green. At the bottom corner, nearly hidden by shadows, was something he hadn't noticed before. A small figure that might have been a child. "Will?" Marcus's voice came from the doorway. "Everyone's asking for you." William didn't turn around. "Did Rebecca ever mention having a sister to you?" Marcus was silent for a beat too long. "No," he said finally. "You know she didn't talk much about her past." That was true. Rebecca had always steered conversations away from her childhood, saying it was too boring to discuss. William had respected her privacy, assuming there were painful memories she preferred not to revisit. Now, he wondered what else she might have kept from him. "That girl, Emma," William said. "She seemed so certain." Marcus approached, placing a hand on William's shoulder. "Grief makes people see things that aren't there. That includes children. But what if—" "Don't do this to yourself, Will." Marcus's voice was firm but kind. "Rebecca drowned. The authorities confirmed it. This wild hope will only prolong your pain." William nodded, recognizing the logic in his friend's words. Yet, as he followed Marcus back to the reception, a seed of doubt had taken root in his mind. That night, after the last guests had departed and William was alone in the too-large house, he sat in his home office with a glass of bourbon, staring at his wedding photo. Rebecca smiled back at him, radiant in her simple white dress, her red hair catching the sunlight. 15 years of marriage, and now he questioned how well he'd known her at all. William opened his laptop and pulled up a search engine. He hesitated, then typed, Emma Harris, Austin, Texas. Too many results. He refined his search. Emma Harris, orphan, Austin. A recent news article appeared. Local teacher leaves legacy of hope. The story detailed the tragic passing of Sarah Harris, an elementary school teacher who had died of cancer the previous year, leaving behind her daughter, Emma. The article mentioned Sarah had no living relatives, resulting in Emma entering the foster care system. William stared at the accompanying photo, a woman in her mid-30s with a warm smile and brown hair. She looked nothing like Rebecca, yet something about her eyes. He pulled out his phone and opened his photos, scrolling back years until he found what he was looking for, a picture from their vacation to Big Bend National Park. Rebecca stood on a cliff edge, arms outstretched, hair whipping in the wind. William zoomed in on her face, then switched back to the news article, the shape of the eyes, the slight asymmetry of the smile. Subtle similarities that might mean nothing or everything. William rubbed his tired eyes and closed the laptop. His rational mind told him he was grasping at straws, seeing connections where none existed. Rebecca was gone. The fact that he couldn't accept it didn't change reality. Yet as he made his way to their bedroom, still filled with her things, her scent fading a little more each day, William couldn't shake the image of the unfinished painting. A blue door, standing closed but not locked, waiting for someone to be brave enough to open it and discover what lay on the other side. "Where are you, Rebecca?" he whispered to the empty room. "And who were you, really?" The questions lingered unanswered in the darkness as William lay awake, his certainty about the past crumbling with each passing hour. A week after the funeral, William sat across from Sandra Miller in her modest living room. The small house in East Austin was tidy but worn, with mismatched furniture and walls that needed fresh paint. Through the window, he could see Emma in the backyard, drawing with chalk on the concrete patio. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with me," William said, wrapping his hands around the mug of coffee Sandra had offered. Sandra nodded, her expression cautious. "I should apologize again for what happened at the funeral. Emma has a vivid imagination, and she's still processing her mother's death. That's actually why I'm here. I'd like to understand more about Emma and her mother." William leaned forward. "Did Emma know my wife before?" Sandra hesitated. According to Emma's file, she has no extended family. Her mother, Sarah Harris, was a teacher at Oak Ridge Elementary. There's no mention of your wife in any of the documentation. William pulled out his phone and showed Sandra a photo of Rebecca. "Did Emma ever mention knowing this woman?" Sandra studied the image, then shook her head. "Not to me, but Emma only came to live with me 3 months ago. Before that, she was with another foster family. Would it be possible for me to speak with her?" Sandra frowned. "Mr. Hayes, I understand you're grieving, but Emma is a vulnerable child. I'm not sure stirring up these ideas is healthy for her. I just want to ask her a few questions," William said. "If Rebecca had connections I didn't know about, I need to understand." After a moment's consideration, Sandra called Emma inside. The girl's hands and knees were smudged with chalk dust, her face lighting up when she saw William. "You came," Emma said, as if she'd been expecting him. William smiled. "I wanted to talk to you about what you said at the church, about seeing my wife." Emma nodded solemnly. "At the Blue Door house? Can you tell me more about this house?" Emma grabbed a piece of paper from a nearby desk and a colored pencil. With quick strokes, she sketched a house with a stone exterior and a prominent blue door. "It has flowers growing on the walls," she added, drawing purple blooms. William felt his throat tighten. The drawing resembled Rebecca's painting. "How do you know my wife, Emma?" "Aunt Rebecca used to visit us sometimes. She and Mom would talk for hours." Emma continued drawing, adding a small figure in a window. "She brought me art supplies and taught me how to mix colors." Did your mom ever mention how she knew Rebecca? Emma shrugged. They were friends from before. Before what? Before everything. Emma looked up at him with eyes too knowing for her age. That's what Mum said when I asked. She said Aunt Rebecca was from before everything. Sandra, who had been listening quietly, placed a hand on Emma's shoulder. Emma, honey, why don't you go wash up for lunch? After Emma left, Sandra turned to William. Mr. Hayes, I don't want to dismiss what Emma's saying, but children often create elaborate stories to cope with loss. She lost her mother, and now she's transferring those feelings to your situation. William understood the logic, yet something didn't fit. The blue door, the wisteria. These were specific details that matched Rebecca's unfinished painting. Did Emma's mother leave any personal effects? Letters, photos, anything that might help me understand if there was a connection? There wasn't much, Sandra said. A box of personal items is being held by Child Protective Services until Emma turns 18. I can give you the contact information for her caseworker, but I doubt they'll release anything to you. William thanked Sandra and promised to stay in touch. As he was leaving, Emma ran up to him. You'll find her, she whispered. She's waiting for you to find her. That evening, William sat in Rebecca's studio, staring at the painting of the blue door. He'd been married to Rebecca for 15 years, yet as he reviewed their life together, he realized how little he actually knew about her past. They'd met when William was just starting his cybersecurity company. Rebecca had been working as an art teacher at a community center. She'd told him she moved to Austin from Chicago after college, that her parents had died in a car accident when she was 20, and that she had no other family. William had never questioned these details. Why would he? He pulled out his laptop and searched for Sarah Harris Chicago. Among the results was an obituary from 14 months ago. Sarah Harris, beloved teacher and mother, passed away after a brave battle with cancer. The accompanying photo confirmed it was Emma's mother. The obituary listed no surviving family except her daughter. On a hunch, William searched for records of Sarah Harris in Chicago. He found nothing going back more than 10 years. It was as if she had appeared in Austin out of nowhere. William's phone rang, startling him. It was Marcus. How are you holding up? Marcus asked. I met with the girl from the funeral today, William said. She drew a picture of a house with a blue door and wisteria, just like Rebecca's painting. A pause. Will, you're looking for connections that aren't there. Maybe, but I'm going to hire a private investigator to look into Rebecca's past. Is that really what you need right now? To potentially uncover things Rebecca wanted to keep private? William bristled at his friend's tone. Don't you think it's strange that this girl claims to know Rebecca? That she drew a house exactly like the one Rebecca was painting? Coincidences happen, Marcus said. But if you're determined to do this, at least use someone trustworthy. I know a PI who worked security assessments for us a few years ago. Her name is Meredith Chambers. 2 days later, William sat across from Meredith Chambers in her downtown office. She was in her mid-40s with short grey hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Let me understand, Meredith said after William explained the situation. You believe your wife, who was declared dead after a boating accident, might still be alive based on the word of an 8-year-old orphan girl. Put that way, it sounded absurd. I know how it sounds, William admitted, but there are inconsistencies that I can't explain. Mr. Hayes, grief can make us see patterns that aren't there. That's what everyone keeps telling me. William leaned forward. Look, I'm not asking you to believe my wife is alive. I'm asking you to help me understand who she was. There are questions I should have asked years ago. Meredith studied him for a long moment. I specialize in missing persons cases, she said finally. Usually, it's about finding answers, not people. Are you prepared for what those answers might be? William nodded. I need to know the truth. All right. Meredith opened a notebook. Let's start with the basics. What documentation do you have for your wife? Birth certificate? social security number, education records. William realized with a shock that he'd never seen Rebecca's birth certificate. Her social security card and passport were in their home safe, but beyond that, her past existed mainly in stories she'd told him. "I'll need to gather those for you," he said. "What about financial records? Did you share accounts?" "We had joint accounts, but Rebecca also maintained a separate checking account for her art supplies and classes," she said. "I'll need access to those records." By the end of the meeting, William had a long list of items to collect. As he stood to leave, Meredith asked one final question. "What do you hope to find, Mr. Hayes?" William paused at the door. "I don't know," he admitted. "Part of me hopes this is all a misunderstanding, that Rebecca is exactly who I thought she was. But another part wants to believe she could still be out there," Meredith finished for him. William spent the next 2 days gathering everything Meredith had requested. When he accessed their home safe, he found Rebecca's passport and social security card exactly where they should be. He also discovered something unexpected, a small key he didn't recognize. At his bank, William requested records for Rebecca's separate account. The manager seemed uncomfortable. "Mr. Hayes, you're not listed as an authorized user on this account," she explained. "I understand, but given the circumstances..." William produced the death certificate the county had issued based on the presumption of drowning. After several phone calls and signed forms, the manager provided William with statements for the past year. When he reviewed them later that night, a pattern emerged that left him cold. Every month for the past 5 years, Rebecca had transferred $3,000 from their joint account to her private one. From there, regular payments went to an address in East Austin, rent for an apartment William knew nothing about. There were also payments to various medical providers and, most recently, to a law firm specializing in family law. William's head spun. What was Rebecca doing with an apartment? Why did she need a family lawyer? He called Meredith immediately. "I found something," he said without preamble. Rebecca had an apartment in East Austin, 1420 Willow Street, apartment 3B. "I'll check it out," Meredith replied. "In the meantime, I've been looking into Sarah Harris, Emma's mother. There's very little history for her before she appeared in Austin 9 years ago. No college records, no previous employment. It's as if she emerged fully formed." "Like Rebecca," William said quietly. "Possibly. I've also requested Rebecca's college transcripts from Northwestern, where she said she studied art. They have no record of a Rebecca Hayes or a Rebecca Wilson, which you said was her maiden name." William felt the ground shifting beneath him. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying the woman you knew as Rebecca may not have been who she claimed to be, and if she created a false identity once, she could have done it again," William finished. The following morning, William and Meredith met outside the East Austin apartment building. It was a far cry from William's Westlake Hills mansion, a plain 3-story complex in a transitional neighborhood. The landlord recognized Rebecca's photo immediately. "Sure, that's Rachel Wilson. Been renting from me for 5 years. Quiet tenant, always paid on time." "Rachel Wilson?" William repeated. "Yeah, is something wrong?" Meredith stepped in smoothly. "When was the last time you saw her?" "About a month ago. She paid 6 months' rent in advance, said she was going away for a while." Inside the apartment, William felt like he'd stepped into an alternate reality. The space was sparsely furnished but clearly lived in. A bookshelf held volumes on art, but also law books and texts on identity theft and cybersecurity, subjects Rebecca had never expressed interest in. On the kitchen counter sat prescription bottles in the name of Rachel Wilson. In the bedroom closet hung clothes William had never seen before. But most disturbing was the corkboard on the wall, covered with newspaper articles about William's company and their home in Westlake Hills. It looked like research, as if Rebecca had been studying her own life. "William," Meredith called from the bedroom, "you need to see this." She handed him a small photo album. Inside were pictures of Rebecca with Sarah Harris, Emma's mother. In one photo, they stood arm in arm on a beach, laughing. In another, they sat on a park bench, a baby Emma between them. They knew each other, William said, his voice hollow. All this time she lied. There's more, Meredith said gently. She pointed to a photo tucked into the back of the album. It showed a much younger Rebecca, or Rachel, standing next to a man in a police uniform. On the back was written, Claire and Dad, 2005. Claire? William stared at the photo. Who the hell was my wife? Meredith placed a hand on his shoulder. I don't know yet, but we're going to find out. As they were leaving, William noticed something by the door, a small painting of a house with a blue door and wisteria climbing the walls. Next to it hung a key on a hook, identical to the one he'd found in their safe. With shaking hands, William took the key from the hook. Whatever door it opened, he was now certain it would lead him closer to the truth about the woman he had married, a woman who, he was beginning to believe, might indeed still be alive. The key from Rebecca's secret apartment burned in William's pocket as he drove home. Darkness had fallen over Austin, the city lights blurring through his windshield like stars. His mind raced faster than his car, piecing together the fragments of a woman he thought he knew. Rebecca, Rachel, Claire. 3 names for a woman who might still be alive. Back at his Westlake Hills home, William sat in his study with a glass of bourbon. The evidence of his wife's deception spread across his desk. Bank statements showing regular payments to the East Austin apartment. The photo of young Claire with her father in police uniform, and the mysterious key that matched the one in their safe. His phone buzzed with a text from Meredith. Found something on Claire Reynolds. Call me tomorrow. William barely slept that night. When morning came, he called Meredith immediately. I ran the name Claire Reynolds through law enforcement databases, Meredith explained. There was a Claire Reynolds who disappeared from Wilmington, Delaware, 15 years ago, right around the time Rebecca appeared in Austin. Disappeared how? Officially, she moved away after her father's death, but there's more to it. Her father was Detective James Reynolds, killed in the line of duty during a drug bust gone wrong. His testimony had been crucial in convicting Thomas Harrington, the leader of a major trafficking operation. You think there's a connection? I think it's worth exploring. Detective Reynolds' death was ruled an accident, but the timing, just weeks before he was scheduled to testify in another case against Harrington's associates, raises questions. William rubbed his temples. So, if Rebecca was really Claire Reynolds, she might have been running from someone connected to her father's death. It gets more interesting, Meredith continued. I found newspaper archives about the case. Claire Reynolds wasn't alone. She had a younger sister named Sophia who disappeared with her. William's hand tightened around his phone. Sarah Harris could have been Sophia Reynolds. That's my guess. The ages match. If they were hiding from dangerous people, they might have split up to decrease the chances of being found together. But why would Rebecca hide this from me? We were married for 15 years. Sometimes people keep secrets to protect those they love, Meredith said gently. If these people killed her father, she might have feared they would target anyone connected to her. After ending the call, William drove to the East Austin apartment again. This time, he examined every inch of the place, looking for anything they might have missed. Under the bed, he found a lockbox. The key from his safe fit perfectly. Inside was a thumb drive, a worn leather journal, and a newspaper clipping about Detective James Reynolds' funeral. William opened the journal with trembling hands. The first entry was dated 16 years ago. Dad says we need to be prepared. The threats are getting worse. He's teaching us how to disappear if something happens to him. I told him he's being paranoid, but the fear in his eyes scares me. William skimmed through the entries, watching Claire Reynolds transform into Rebecca Wilson in real time. The journal documented her plans, her fears, and eventually, her meeting with William. Met someone today. William Hayes. He's brilliant and kind. Everything I shouldn't allow myself to want. Getting close to him would put him in danger. But for the first time in years, I felt normal. Just a woman spilling coffee on a handsome man's laptop, not someone looking over her shoulder for ghosts. William's throat tightened. Later entries revealed Rebecca's internal struggle. William proposed today. I should say no. I should walk away. But I'm tired of being alone, tired of living half a life. Maybe they've forgotten about us after all these years. Maybe we're finally safe. He continued reading, discovering that Sarah, Sophia, had resurfaced in Rebecca's life 9 years ago when she moved to Austin with baby Emma. Sophia found me. She's calling herself Sarah now and has a daughter. I'm an aunt. She says she's been careful, that no one has followed her. We're meeting in secret. William can never know. The fewer connections between us, the safer we all are. The final entries were from just a month before Rebecca's accident. They found us. A man approached Sophia at Emma's school. He knew her real name, said they've been watching us for years. They want the evidence Dad collected, but how can we give them what we never had? Sophia's cancer has returned. If something happens to her, Emma will have no one. I need to make arrangements. The last entry sent a chill down William's spine. There's only one way to protect them all. Rebecca Hayes needs to disappear. Claire Reynolds needs to return and face this once and for all. If they believe I'm dead, they'll leave William alone. I've arranged everything. After the boating trip, Rebecca will be gone. I'm sorry, William. Forgiveness isn't what I'm asking for. Just understand that I loved you too much to let them hurt you. William sat on the floor of the apartment, the journal clutched to his chest. Rebecca had staged her own death to protect him and Emma. But where was she now? And who was still hunting her after all these years? The thumb drive contained documents that filled in more pieces of the puzzle. Detective Reynolds had been investigating corruption that reached into the highest levels of the Wilmington Police Department. Thomas Harrington's drug operation had protection from within the force itself. Before his death, Reynolds had collected evidence against several high-ranking officers. That evidence had disappeared after his accident, but the corrupt officials could never be certain his daughters didn't have copies. William brought everything to Meredith's office the next day. This explains a lot, she said after reviewing the materials, but it doesn't tell us where Rebecca is now. The blue door, William said suddenly. Emma said she saw Rebecca at the big house with the blue door. It must be a real place. They searched property records for houses matching the description in the painting. After hours of dead ends, William remembered something. The key, he said, pulling it from his pocket. We never figured out what this opens. Meredith examined it. It's not a house key, more like a storage unit or safety deposit box. They tried local banks first, then storage facilities. At Austin Secure Storage on the outskirts of town, the manager recognized the key's distinctive logo. Unit 214, he confirmed. Rented by Rachel Wilson 6 years ago. Monthly payments come in automatically. The storage unit contained file boxes, a suitcase, and a large painting covered in cloth. William removed the covering to reveal a finished version of the blue door painting from Rebecca's studio. But this one showed the door standing open, revealing a stone path leading to a lake house in the distance. That's Lake Travis, William realized, but not the public areas. This is on the far side, where there are only a few private properties. In one of the boxes, they found a deed for a property on the secluded western shore of Lake Travis, purchased by Rachel Wilson 4 years ago. The address matched a pin marked on a map tucked inside the same folder. This is where she is, William said with certainty. This is where Emma saw her. Meredith looked concerned. William, if Rebecca is hiding from dangerous people, rushing in could put her at risk. We should contact the FBI. This involves interstate fugitives, corruption, maybe even murder. And tell them what? That my dead wife is actually alive and hiding from corrupt cops who might have killed her father 15 years ago. They'll think I'm crazy. William pocketed the address. I need to see her first. I need to hear the truth from her. At least let me come with you, Meredith insisted. I have a licensed firearm and training. William agreed, and they planned to drive to the lake house the following morning. That night, he sat with Emma's drawing of the blue door house, comparing it to the painting from the storage unit. The resemblance was unmistakable. Emma had definitely seen this place. Before dawn, William's phone rang. It was Marcus. "Will, where are you?" His friend sounded agitated. "At home, about to leave for Lake Travis." "Why?" "Don't go to the lake house. It's not safe." William froze. "How do you know about the lake house?" A long pause. "Because I helped Rebecca set it up," Marcus admitted. "I've been helping her for years." Betrayal washed over William. "You knew she was alive? All this time, you watched me grieve. And you knew." "It wasn't my secret to tell. Rebecca came to me 5 years ago when she first suspected someone was watching her. She needed someone with resources who could help her create contingency plans. She swore me to secrecy." "I'm her husband." "And that's exactly why she couldn't tell you," Marcus said. "These people wouldn't hesitate to use you to get to her. The less you knew, the safer you were." William gripped the phone so hard his knuckles turned white. "Tell me where she is, Marcus." "That's why I'm calling. Rebecca contacted me last night. Someone's been asking questions about the lake house. She's on the move again. She left something for you, but you need to go alone. No PI, no police." "How can I trust you now?" "You can't," Marcus said simply. "But Rebecca trusts me, and if you want to find her, you'll have to as well." After hanging up, William cancelled his plans with Meredith, claiming he needed more time to process everything. Instead, he drove to Marcus's downtown loft. Marcus looked like he hadn't slept. "I'm sorry, Will. I wanted to tell you so many times." "Save it," William snapped. "Where is she?" Marcus handed him a sealed envelope. "This will lead you to her, but you need to understand what you're walking into. The people after Rebecca are still out there, and they're powerful. If they realize you're looking for her, they'll follow you straight to her." "Who are they?" "Names, Marcus. I only know one for sure. Chief Walter Simmons of the Wilmington PD. He was a detective when James Reynolds died, promoted quickly afterward. Rebecca believes he ordered her father's murder." "Why now, after 15 years?" "Because of Emma," Marcus explained. "When Sarah died, custody records were created. Someone searching databases for Reynolds' connections might have flagged it. They've been watching Sarah for years, but her cancer diagnosis is what brought everything to a head. Rebecca believed they would try to use Emma to draw her out." William opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten note in Rebecca's familiar script. "William, if you're reading this, you've discovered more than I ever wanted you to know. I never meant to hurt you. Everything about our love was real, even when everything else was a lie. If you can forgive me enough to help me finish this, come to where we began. I'll be there at sunset today. Come alone. Trust no one else, not even Marcus." "Ah." "Where we began," William murmured. "The coffee shop downtown where they'd met 15 years ago." Marcus tried to look at the note, but William tucked it away. "If you've lied to me about anything else, I'll never forgive you." "I'm trying to protect both of you," Marcus insisted. "Be careful, Will. These people have everything to lose." William left without another word. As he drove away, he noticed a black SUV pulling out behind him. He took a series of random turns, and the vehicle stayed with him. Someone was following him. Someone who now knew he was looking for Rebecca. He needed to lose his tail before sunset, and he needed to determine if Marcus was truly helping Rebecca or if he was leading William into a trap. The note had said to trust no one, but it had also been delivered by Marcus. William couldn't be sure if those were truly Rebecca's words or part of a larger deception. As the sun climbed higher in the Texas sky, William made a decision. He would go to the coffee shop at sunset. But first, he would make a stop, one that neither Marcus nor whoever was following him would anticipate. William pulled into the parking lot of Sandra Miller's modest home. Emma might be the only person in this whole situation who had been completely honest with him. And right now, he needed clarity more than anything else. If he was going to find Rebecca, or Claire, or whoever she really was, he needed to be certain he wasn't walking into an ambush. His wife had disappeared once to protect him. He wouldn't let her sacrifice be in vain by leading danger straight to her door. Sandra's face registered surprise when she opened her door to find William standing on her porch, his eyes darting nervously to the street behind him. "Mr. Hayes, I wasn't expecting you." "I need to speak with Emma," William said, his voice low and urgent. "It's important." Sandra hesitated. "She's doing her homework. Is everything all right? You seem—" "Please," William said. "It's about Rebecca." Something in his tone must have convinced her. Sandra let him in, calling Emma from her bedroom. When the girl appeared, her face lit up at the sight of William. "You found her," Emma said immediately, not a question but a statement. William knelt to her level. "Not yet, but I'm going to meet her today. I need to be sure of something first." He pulled out his phone and showed Emma the finished painting of the blue door from the storage unit. "Is this the place where you saw her?" Emma nodded eagerly. "That's it, the blue door house by the lake." "When exactly did you see her there?" "The day before your wife's funeral," Emma said. "My foster mom before Sandra took me to the lake. I wandered off and found the house. Aunt Rebecca was inside, painting. She looked different. Her hair was brown, not red, but I knew it was her." "What did she say to you?" Emma's expression grew serious. "She cried when she saw me. She said I shouldn't be there, that it wasn't safe. She told me to find you at the funeral and tell you she was alive." "Did she mention anyone else? A man named Marcus, maybe?" Emma shook her head. "She just said that if anything happened to her, I should find you because you'd keep me safe. Then she gave me this." Emma pulled a folded paper from her pocket and handed it to William. It was a small sketch of William and Emma together, signed with a tiny R in the corner. On the back was written, "Family protects family." William's throat tightened. "Thank you, Emma. This helps more than you know." As he stood to leave, Emma grabbed his hand. "Are you going to bring her back?" William squeezed her small fingers gently. "I'm going to try." Outside, William circled the block twice to confirm he wasn't being followed before heading downtown. The black SUV from earlier was nowhere in sight, but William remained vigilant, taking an indirect route to Groundwork Coffee, where he and Rebecca had first met 15 years ago. The coffee shop had changed hands several times over the years, but still maintained its cozy atmosphere. William arrived an hour before sunset, choosing a table with a clear view of both entrances. He ordered a latte, the same drink Rebecca had spilled on his laptop that fateful day, and waited. His mind raced through everything he'd learned. Rebecca was Claire Reynolds, daughter of a detective who died investigating police corruption. She and her sister had been hiding for years, creating new identities to escape the people who killed their father. And Marcus, his best friend and business partner, had been helping Rebecca maintain her deception for years. The betrayal still stung, but William was beginning to understand. Rebecca hadn't lied to hurt him, she'd lied to protect him. At precisely 6:42 p.m., as the Texas sun bathed the coffee shop in golden light, a woman entered through the side door. Her brown hair was cut short, and she wore sunglasses and casual clothes that would blend into any crowd. But William would have recognized her anywhere. Rebecca. She didn't approach immediately. Instead, she ordered a drink and scanned the room carefully before finally making eye contact with William. The smallest nod passed between them. She took her coffee to a table in the back corner, away from windows. William waited 2 minutes, then joined her, his heart pounding so hard he thought it might explode. Up close, he could see the changes in her. Beyond the hair color, there were new lines around her eyes, a wariness in her posture. But when she removed her sunglasses, those amber eyes were the same ones he'd fallen in love with. "William?" she said softly, his name a prayer on her lips. "Rebecca," he replied. Or should I call you Claire? A sad smile crossed her face. I've been so many people, I sometimes forget who I started as. Why didn't you tell me? The question that had burned inside him for weeks finally escaped. Rebecca, Claire, looked down at her coffee. At first, because I hardly knew you. Then because I loved you too much to risk your safety. The people who killed my father would have no qualms about hurting you to get to me. So you let me think you were dead instead. It seemed kinder than the alternative. If they believed I was gone, you would be safe. She reached across the table, stopping just short of touching his hand. I never planned to contact you again. But then Emma found me. She told me, the day before the funeral. She shouldn't have been anywhere near the lake house. It was just bad luck, or fate, perhaps. Once she saw me, I knew she would tell you. I couldn't let her think she was crazy or worse, a liar. Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. I'm so sorry, William, for everything. Your sister was Sarah Harris, William said. Emma's mother. Rebecca nodded. Sophia changed her name to Sarah when we split up. We thought it would be safer to live separate lives. When she got sick, I helped with Emma's care. After she died, I tried to adopt Emma, but the background checks would have exposed everything. That's when the threats started again. Marcus told me about Chief Simmons from Wilmington. He's still after you. Simmons and others. My father uncovered a network of corruption that went beyond the police department. Judges, politicians. The evidence he gathered implicated dozens of powerful people. Rebecca leaned closer. When Dad realized how deep it went, he made copies of everything and gave them to us for safekeeping. We were teenagers. No one would suspect us. After he died, we ran. Do you still have this evidence? Rebecca nodded. It's been my insurance policy all these years. As long as they thought I might release it if anything happened to me or Sophia, they kept their distance. But when Sophia died and Emma entered the system, they saw an opportunity. A vulnerable child could be used as leverage. So you faked your death to protect both of us. Yes. I needed them to think Claire Reynolds was finally coming out of hiding. That I'd left my Rebecca Hayes identity behind completely. And the lake house, the apartment in East Austin. Contingency plans. I've always maintained escape routes, alternate identities. Marcus helped with the logistics. At the mention of Marcus, William's eyes narrowed. How long has he known the truth? 5 years, Rebecca admitted. I needed someone with resources, someone who could help me disappear if necessary. I'm sorry I involved your friend in my deception. Was anything real? William asked, the pain evident in his voice. Our marriage, our life together. Rebecca's hand finally crossed the distance between them, her fingers grasping his. Everything that mattered was real. My love for you was never a lie, William. You were the only true thing in my life. You let me feel normal, safe, loved. William wanted to believe her, but 15 years of lies weren't easily forgotten. What happens now? He asked. I have a plan to end this once and for all. The evidence my father collected, I've updated it, added to it over the years. There's enough to put Simmons and his associates away for life. Why not take it to the FBI? Because I never knew who to trust. But I've found someone now, an agent who worked with my father years ago. She's been building a case against police corruption in Delaware for a decade. With my evidence, she can finally move forward. And after? If this works? Rebecca's eyes held a cautious hope. After, maybe Claire Reynolds can stop running. Maybe she can build a new life, a real one this time. With Emma, William said. Yes, she's my niece, my only family. She deserves stability, love. And with me? William asked quietly. Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. I've hurt you beyond forgiveness, William. I wouldn't blame you if you walked away. Before William could respond, his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Leave now. You're being watched. William scanned the coffee shop and spotted a man at the counter who seemed too interested in their table. Outside, the black SUV he'd noticed earlier was parked across the street. "We need to go," William said urgently, showing Rebecca the text. They slipped out through the kitchen, thanks to a barista who remembered them as regulars years ago. In the alley behind the coffee shop, Rebecca led William to a nondescript sedan. "Where are we going?" William asked as they pulled away. "Somewhere safe. I have the evidence with me. We're meeting the FBI agent tonight." "Who sent that text warning us?" Rebecca smiled slightly. "Marcus. He's been watching out for us." As they drove through the darkening streets of Austin, William's mind churned with questions and doubts. Could he trust Rebecca now? Could he rebuild a life with someone who had deceived him so thoroughly, even if it was for his protection? They arrived at a motel on the outskirts of town. Inside a room on the second floor, they found Meredith Chambers waiting for them. "You're late," Meredith said, rising from her chair. William stared in confusion. "Meredith? How are you involved in this?" "Agent Meredith Chambers, FBI," she said, showing a badge William had never seen before. "I've been investigating the Wilmington corruption case for years. When you hired me to find your wife, I realized who Rebecca really was." "You knew?" William felt another wave of betrayal. "Not at first," Meredith explained. "But when I saw the connection to Delaware and Detective Reynolds, I put it together. I couldn't tell you I was FBI without risking the entire operation." Rebecca placed a USB drive on the table. "Everything my father collected, plus what Sophia and I gathered over the years. It's all here." Meredith took the drive. "This is enough to put them away for good. But you'll both need to testify." "What about Emma?" William asked. "She's vulnerable as long as she's in the foster system." "We have agents watching her," Meredith assured them. "Once we make arrests, the threat will be contained. Then we can talk about permanent arrangements for her." Rebecca looked at William. "I was hoping we might consider adopting her, together. But I understand if that's asking too much after everything." William was silent for a long moment. The woman before him had lied to him for their entire relationship. She had let him believe she was dead, had maintained a secret life he knew nothing about. Yet she had done it all to protect him and a child who had no one else. "Family protects family," William said finally, repeating the words from Emma's drawing. "If we do this, if we try again, no more secrets, no more lies." Rebecca nodded, tears streaming down her face. "No more lies." "I'll need to get both of you to a safe house tonight," Meredith interrupted. "We're moving on Simmons and his associates tomorrow morning." As they prepared to leave, William's phone rang. It was Marcus. "They found you," Marcus said without preamble. "Simmons is in Austin. He has men watching the motel. Get out now." William relayed the warning to Meredith, who immediately drew her weapon. "We have a backup extraction plan," she said calmly. "There's a maintenance room at the end of the hall with access to the roof. We can cross to the adjacent building." They moved quickly, Meredith leading the way. As they reached the stairwell, they heard footsteps coming up from below. "Go," Meredith ordered, positioning herself to cover their escape. On the roof, William and Rebecca ran hand in hand, jumping the narrow gap to the next building. Below, they heard shouting, then gunshots. "Meredith," William said, turning back. Rebecca grabbed his arm. "She's FBI, William. She knows what she's doing. We need to keep moving." They made it to ground level and found a police car waiting, summoned by Meredith's distress signal. As they sped away, William saw emergency vehicles converging on the motel. "It's not over," Rebecca said, gripping his hand. "But it's the beginning of the end." Hours later, in a safe house outside Austin, William and Rebecca sat at a kitchen table, exhausted but alive. Meredith had escaped the motel and reported that 2 of Simmons' men had been arrested. Simmons himself had slipped away, but was now the subject of a nationwide manhunt. "What happens tomorrow?" William asked. "We give our statements," Rebecca replied. "The FBI moves on the corruption network. And then perhaps we can start thinking about the future." "Our future," William corrected her. "Yours, mine, and Emma's." Rebecca's eyes filled with hope. "Do you really think we can start over? After everything?" William thought about the past weeks. The shock of Emma's announcement at the funeral, the discovery of Rebecca's secret life, the pain of betrayal, and the understanding that had slowly replaced it. "Not start over," he said finally. "Start from the truth this time." Outside, the first light of dawn broke over the Texas horizon. Within days, the news would break about one of the largest police corruption scandals in American history. Within weeks, Emma would come to live with them in protective custody. Within months, Chief Walter Simmons and 12 other officials would be indicted on charges ranging from corruption to murder. But in this moment, William and Rebecca, or Claire, as she would legally become again, sat together in the quiet kitchen, two people finding their way back to each other through a lifetime of lies. The road ahead would not be easy. Trust, once broken, is rebuilt slowly. But as William looked at the woman across from him, the stranger he'd been married to for 15 years, the woman he was only now beginning to truly know, he felt something he hadn't expected to feel again. Hope. "No more lies," Rebecca whispered, echoing his earlier demand. William nodded. "Just truth from now on, however complicated it might be." She smiled, that same smile that had captured his heart in a coffee shop 15 years ago, and William knew that whatever came next, they would face it together, with Emma beside them. A family built not on perfect pasts, but on the promise of honesty in the future. Family protects family. This time they would do it together, in the light.